G'day ladies and gents, and welcome back to DCS World with Mags.
50 miles off your nose are two aggressor F-5s over the Eglin range. Practice your air combat maneuvering gun skills and using your wingman. Good luck.
Thank you very much for that briefing. So, today's mission is one of the DCS World Alpha 2.0 Nevada Test and Training Range training missions for the F-15c. This is a fight between two F-5 aggressors and two F-15cs. This is a gunfight only, there are no missiles available. And of course, as you can see by the face cam in the top right hand corner, this is being flown completely with the Oculus Rift. So, there's a couple of things that you need to know straight away. Now, the video you're watching is taken from the replay system. The camera is taken from the live feed, so I've had to splice these together. If they ever look like they're slightly out of sync, it probably means I've messed up the splicing. Now, the second thing people are going to ask about is the field of view from the main video. The Oculus Rift plays in a different resolution to what the actual game does. I play in 1080p in the game, the Oculus Rift has its own resolution. Now, because of that resolution difference, the field of view in the replay appears to be smaller. You appear to be very zoomed in on your HUD. From the perspective inside of the Rift, I could see most of my control console with very little issue without having to move my head, so keep that in mind. The last thing is you'll notice I appear to be sitting to the left most of the time that I'm inside of the cockpit according to the replay. This is because of my disability. I am nearly blind in the left eye, so when I use the Oculus Rift, I sit slightly off center in order to account for the fact that my left eye doesn't see as well as my right. So again, from the perspective of the Oculus Rift, everything was central. Now, I do have a DCS Oculus Rift overview video planned in the near future, so I'm not going to talk too much else about the Rift at this time. I'll save it all for that video. Although I will have a couple of comments to pop in during the middle and towards the end of the video. However, for most of this, I'm just going to let the video do the talking. I hope you enjoy the ride.
Splashwood Bandit.
Now, at this point, I'd actually gotten myself in a world of trouble. The F-5 is an inferior aircraft to the F-15 in pretty much every way in a real fight. The problem is, this isn't a real fight. This is a close-range gunfight, something that an F-15 would usually avoid at all costs. The F-5 is fast, extremely nimble, and extremely maneuverable, to the point where it is able to keep on the 6 of an F-15 with very little issues. Even trying to open the gap by going full burn, relatively straight and level, only opened the distance between the F-5 and the F-15 by a kilometre, maybe two. By the time the F-15 had made its turn back, the F-5 was all over me all over again. So at this point I had realised running and manoeuvring at low altitude wasn't doing anything for me, so I decided to take the F-15 into the vertical and see exactly how the F-5 performs at high altitude. At 27,000 feet, I decide I'm high enough. It's time to turn back and see whether or not I can get guns on him. But the little bastard was still right there. He tips the F-5 over and pushes it back into a dive. I've got the F-15 almost in a stall. At this point I decide to continue straight up to 0 speed and then push the stick forward and negative G the aircraft into a dive. If it works, I should be nose down right on top of him and ready to start accelerating. But I was a little too slow with the manoeuvre, and the F-5 had already turned back into the vertical to manoeuvre back onto me while I was stalling, and we end up crossing one another again. Now at this point I caught a lucky break. The F-5 disengaged from me and moved to engage my wingman. This allowed me to turn back in on its 6, and now I'm going for the firing solution.
Splash one bandit. Both bandits haven't splashed. You can RTV.
So with both targets eliminated and me having to face up to the fact that I just shot down my wingman, time to head back to base. So I decided to have a little bit of low altitude fun on the way back. The sensation of speed you get when you're doing this in the Oculus Rift it's something you have to experience for yourself. Another thing I'd like to point out, and it's something that a lot of people forget with the Oculus Rift, when you play a game like DCS, or you watch a video like this one, and you're looking at what I'm seeing on the screen, you can see the border of your monitor. For you, up and down remains exactly as it normally would be, regardless of what the plane is doing on your screen. When the Oculus Rift on, when you go upside down, your entire perspective of everything goes upside down with it. I'm a person who experiences no motion sickness and generally experiences no vertigo or any of those inner ear related interesting things that can happen to people. However, I have had a couple of moments where I felt the pit of my stomach fall out when I've rolled the aircraft. Of course, I can't play around in the desert for too long. I was using heavy afterburner due to that fight, and I have no external tanks on, so I'm just on vapors. Thankfully, we're almost at the Groom Lake facility, where I'll put her down. So just banking in for my final approach to the main runway at Groom Lake. One thing I will say about the development kit too, the resolution is good enough to fly without too much of an issue, although this was one point where I actually had a bit of a problem. Spotting Area 51 itself wasn't too much of an issue. The buildings stood out against the horizon. However, trying to line up on this runway until I was relatively close, it sort of blended into the surrounding textures. I'm really looking forward to getting my hands on a full production Oculus Rift with a higher resolution so I don't have this problem. Incidentally, that's why my approach to the runway is, well, I wouldn't call it particularly clean. It's because until right about now I actually couldn't see the runway clearly. I could see the buildings, I could see everything else, just spotting the runway was difficult. The giveaway point, if you look up towards the horizon, you'll see a patch of dirt just below the horizon that is lighter than the rest. That was the piece that I could see on the Rift. This closer part was almost invisible until just before I dropped my landing gear. And despite my best efforts to put her down gentle, I end up popping the right-hand tyre on landing. Thankfully I managed to keep the plane under control without too much of an issue. I do miss my first exit, so I have to taxi down a little bit further and taxi off the second exit to park the aircraft. So, DCS World with the Oculus Rift. As I said earlier on, I don't want to speak too much about the details until my full-on Oculus Rift video is actually ready, and it's taking quite a bit of effort to get this video put together. I will say one thing though, this was fantastic. Playing with the Oculus Rift is better than using TrackIR or anything else I have ever used for head tracking in every single way. It is a hell of a workout. You do have well, it's not particularly heavy, but you do have a large headset on your head. It does require you to throw yourself around in the seat to be able to get vision. You have to look one around you. It's not as simple as just gently twisting your head and being able to spin your head 180 on the perspective of the screen. But it's so much more rewarding to fly. It's actually so good that I am increasingly finding it more and more difficult to fly DCS without the Oculus Rift. It's reached the point now where, even though the development kit 2 has a relatively low resolution and it's difficult to spot things sometimes. The experience is so much better that I will take it over track IR in almost every situation. So anyways, ladies and gents, I hope you enjoyed this little glimpse into the Rift and DCS. Thank you very much for watching. Click like if you do, subscribe if you want to see more. Fly smart, fly safe, and I'll catch you in the skies.